A lot going on today when it comes to geopolitical situations, historic meetings certainly between the U.S. President Donald Trump and Russia's President Vladimir Putin. This at the same time that the U.S. launches action against 5 countries, including Canada, over retaliatory duties on metals. For some perspective on how this impacts Canada, we're joined now by Canada's former Foreign Affairs Minister, Baker McKenzie, a partner at Baker McKenzie. Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. Lots of moving parts.
Let's start with this U.S. challenge of 5 WTO members for what they describe as imposing illegal tariffs. Obviously, we've talked about Canada and its retaliatory action for the steel and aluminum tariffs that were first directed at Canada.
So retaliatory actions, or countervailing duties as they're called, are a result of usually an escalation in concerns over the impact, in this case, on the American economy. This is in keeping with the, some would say, hyper-aggressive approach of this administration, but we can't forget that there have been ongoing tensions in some of these areas for some time. Softwood in particular, aircraft is another. But on the steel and aluminum tariffs now, Canada is coming back, fighting back, if you will. There is a rules-based process under the WTO, and we also have to go back to the general agreement on trade and tariffs that will apply. So all of this to unpack will be sorted out with facts in front of an arbitrator with a lot of lawyers in the room. And I think importantly for Canada and importantly for our economy is we have fared very well in the past on these type of disputes.
That's one side of the story, but then there's all the tweets and the headlines and all the moving parts. And we actually just had a conversation with the former U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Gordon Giffin, who seemed to be saying he felt like a good move strategically for Canada at this point would be to push ahead with a bilateral trade discussion with the United States. He seemed to be suggesting Mexico should do the same while all of this is going on. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that is, and I have a lot of time for the former ambassador, but I think it may be wishful thinking. We've seen how the NATO, or the NAFTA talks, I should say, have gone. In spite of, quite frankly, a lot of evidence, a lot of goodwill, a lot of effort expended on the part of the Global Affairs Department, Chrystia Freeland, our negotiators, we're at an impasse, and we've basically been at a standstill now for over a month. So reaching out politically can never hurt. I think that there's always merit in trying that particular route. I'm not sure how successful that will be. I somehow think that this is going to wind up being negotiated more likely in front of an arbiter, in front of the court.
All right. Just before we go to break, there was a comment from the head of BlackRock, major asset manager, more than $6 trillion today, in an interview with Bloomberg, that this trade uncertainty, it's going to cost investors. At some point, you're going to see some sizable selling pressure. He was talking about the U.S. markets, but how do you feel about these unresolved trade tensions and what it means for economies and stock markets?
Well, uncertainty is never good when it comes to investors. It certainly has, I suspect, impacted direct foreign investment in Canada, which is down. I think you are seeing some nervousness in the stock markets being reflected, our dollar. The real issue here, let's be clear, is we are almost at the whim of what the president's tweet may be on any given day and how that might affect any sector, any part of the economy, any trade deal. We are in uncharted waters is how I see it, quite frankly. And what the remedy is to persist and to keep going forward and to try to garner as much information as we can from American counterparts across the board. We cannot look to one source, that being the White House or even the government. We have to look to chambers of commerce, state legislatures as well, and different industry sectors and business interests in many, many parts of the United States if we hope to try to make sense of it all.